They fined me $200 for leaving 2 boxes by the porch for 48 hours, and the notice came stamped, "Final warning, 14 days to comply." What they didn't know was that the property line they threatened me on wasn't theirs to police. Welcome to my channel. I'm a civil engineer from upstate New York, and after 20 years of drafting plans for other people's homes, I finally bought my own, an old Cedar Lake house west of Syracuse. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I tell these stories so ordinary homeowners learn what really goes on behind HOA gates. Where are you watching from tonight? The lake had always been my father's dream. He passed 2 summers before I closed on it, and the deed felt like finishing his sentence. The house sat on 2.3 acres, half forest, half shoreline, with a small dock that had survived 4 owners. My plan was simple: weekends of quiet, restore the boathouse, maybe teach my nephew how to fish. Then, in the second week after moving in, a white SUV with HOA patrol decals rolled up my driveway like a sheriff's cruiser. A woman in a pink blazer stepped out, tablet in hand. "You're stacking unsightly debris," she said, tapping the boxes that held kitchenware I hadn't unpacked yet. Section 8.1 prohibits storage visible from the street. "This is a private driveway," I said, pointing toward the lake. "I'm not even in your subdivision." Her smile didn't blink. "You're within the easement zone. We enforce aesthetics on all contiguous parcels. You'll receive a citation." She drove off before I could finish laughing. 3 days later, the notice arrived, complete with a scanned signature and a fee schedule escalating to $3,600 for continued non-compliance. The envelope smelled faintly of toner and perfume. I pinned it to the fridge beside my father's fishing permit. When I told my neighbor Ray, retired postal inspector, still wore his bico tsaba EADS badge on his belt like muscle memory. He just whistled. "You're not the first. They cite anything that moves. But I've never seen them cross the easement line. Might be worth pulling their filings at the county office." That night I poured coffee strong enough to stand a spoon and opened the county GIS portal. Parcel layers, covenant overlays, scanned deeds from 1998. I traced the boundary and read. The HOA's plat ended 78 feet short of my gate. Their so-called easement was just an abandoned right-of-way for a drainage ditch capped in 2004. Still, the next week they doubled down. 2 more citations: unapproved exterior lighting and noise violation, generator after 10 p.m. I hadn't used the generator since move-in day. They'd either misheard or fabricated it. I started documenting everything: date, time, camera angle, decibel reading from my phone app. Every piece of paper went into a blue binder labeled defensible space. One morning I woke to gravel crunching outside. 2 men in matching windbreakers were photographing my siding. When I stepped out, they flashed badges. HOA code compliance. No city seal, just laminated IDs. I asked if they had jurisdiction. They said, "Under contractual authority." That phrase stuck to my ribs like bad coffee. By that weekend, I decided to fight, not flare. Ray suggested I meet his friend Carla, municipal attorney, small frame, big glasses, always scribbling on napkins. Over lunch at the diner, she scanned the citations and smirked. Selective enforcement, classic overreach. If they're treating you as a member, they owe you member rights. If you're not, they're trespassing. Knowledge nugget number 1. In most U.S. states, an HOA cannot enforce covenants or impose fines on properties not formally recorded within its declaration boundaries. Jurisdiction ends at the last legally described lot. Carla's advice was to stay quo. He'd collect evidence and never respond in anger. "Let them commit to the story first," she said. "Then you show the map." So I did. Over the next month, I logged 6 visits, 4 letters, and 1 community meeting invite slid under my door. Each came with a fresh violation: mailbox color, grass height, even a potential safety hazard for leaving my canoe tied parallel to the dock instead of perpendicular. Ray helped install motion sensors, and every clip we saved felt like one more bead on a rosary of patience. Still, something inside me twitched every time the mailbox clanked. My father had spent his last years fighting city inspectors over a porch permit. The stress shaved months off him. I wasn't going to let another paper bully do that to me. On a foggy Tuesday in May, a woman from the HOA Finance Committee left a voicemail. Failure to remit fines may result in lien proceedings. That word, lien, lit the fuse. I knew from my engineering projects that liens require recorded debt and contractual consent. They had neither. That evening, I stood on the porch staring at the lake's mirror surface, thinking of Dad's steady voice. If you build right, you don't have to build twice. It wasn't just about carpentry. It was about standing on something level, no matter who tried to tilt it. By week's end, I decided to dig deeper. If they wanted to play boundary games, I'd find out who really owned what, and how far their reach actually went. By mid-June, the HOA's paper trail started to contradict itself. One notice came on letterhead that listed Lakeside Estates HOA, another read Lakeside Preservation Board. Different EINs, same officers. Carla called it a shell cascade, a trick to blur jurisdiction. We decided to trace the registrations at the Secretary of State's site. What popped up was stranger. Their articles of incorporation still showed a 1999 filing tied to Parcel 41B, a common area sold off in 2011 to a holding company named North Bay Ventures LLC. That company's mailing address matched a law office in Albany that I'd contracted with 3 years earlier on a stormwater design. I knew the paralegal there, Pete Corcoran, ink-stained cuffs, chain coffee drinker. I called him. "Pete? You still keep the North Bay files?" "Sure do," he said, flipping papers. "We service the escrow. Why?" "Because your client technically owns the tract the HOA's claiming to enforce through." Silence, then a low whistle. "You mean their access road?" "Exactly." Pete faxed me the assignment and deed schedule. The HOA's right-of-way had been abandoned on paper but never re-recorded. In legal terms, they were driving over someone else's dirt every time they patrolled. Carla's eyes glinted when I showed her. "Don't file anything yet. Let them drive one more time. Then we document trespass." Meanwhile, the harassment picked up. Flyers appeared on my mailbox. Non-compliant property, reduce visual blight. Someone keyed HOA pays into my truck door. Ray caught one of their volunteers photographing through my window at dusk. We called the county sheriff, who shrugged. Civil matter, not criminal. Second engagement moment came naturally that night while I recorded a late evening note for the channel. I asked the viewers, "You ever deal with a power-hungry HOA? If you're anti-HOA, tell me your tactic for standing your ground, something others can learn. And if an HOA board member's lurking here, the comment box is open. Leave your defense." Back in the story, I kept digging. Meeting minutes from April showed the HOA president, Janice Merrow, telling residents, "We must preserve uniformity along the shoreline, even where the plat maps are unclear." That sentence would end her presidency later. Knowledge nugget number 1 already played its part. Now I had numbers: 8 citations, 4 harassment incidents, 2 confirmed misfilings. The pressure built like humidity before a thunderstorm. Carla drafted a cease and desist, but held it in reserve. We'll need leverage bigger than a warning. Something that flips the table. That something arrived by accident. While scanning the parcel map, I noticed a thin strip labeled Maintenance Easement. Pump line 2003 running under my driveway straight to the HOA's irrigation pump by the lake. The right-of-use clause granted perpetual access by property owner for repair and control. My signature line now owned the valve that watered their entire entrance landscaping. Reversal number 1 was taking shape, but I kept quiet. I printed the easement, laminated it, and stored it with my deed. Every time their patrol car idled by, I smiled. Not yet. In late July, the HOA held its annual barbecue fundraiser. $25 tickets. Mandatory attendance encouraged. I bought one. The smell of propane and lakeweed hung in the air. Janice spotted me across the lawn, smile sharp as broken glass. "Glad to see you embracing community spirit," she said. "I'm all about shared resources," I answered, nodding toward the sprinkler heads misting the grass. My water line. The next morning they hit me with a notice of escalation, unpaid assessments, intent to lien. Carla laughed so hard she spilled coffee. "They still don't get it. Good. Keep paying nothing. They'll file improperly and we'll counter with trespass and unauthorized utility draw." Ray suggested we timestamp their patrol routes. We set up a dash cam pointed at the road and caught HOA trucks crossing the line daily at 7:14 a.m. That footage, plus the parcel deed, became Exhibit A and B in a folder labeled Valve Control. By August, the pattern was complete. Harassment, escalation, false authority, all documented. The lake air grew cooler, and I could feel the season turning toward confrontation. The plan was almost ready. I just needed one more piece, a neutral authority to witness when I finally turned the valve. The county inspector's name was Derek Holland, 50-ish, with a voice like gravel and a thermos that never left his hand. Carla arranged the inspection under the pretext of a drainage complaint, a neutral trigger that let us get eyes on the boundary without tipping the HOA. Derek parked his Orange County truck half on the grass, half on the easement, and looked down at the line Ray and I had spray-painted the night before. He nodded once. "They've been driving past this point?" "Every day for the last 3 months," I said, showing him the dash cam timestamps. "Then that's trespass under County Code 14112. Keep your cameras rolling. Don't interfere. I'll file a cite log." The sound of his pen scratching on the clipboard felt like the first drum of a march. The HOA patrol car rolled by 5 minutes later, slow enough for Derek to jot down the plate number. He didn't wave. Inside, the house smelled of coffee and printer ink, our war scent by now. Carla spread the documents across my dining table. Plats, easements, inspection logs. "We have jurisdiction, trespass evidence, and a utility link. Next step, pressure test their governance." We went through their bylaws line by line. The quorum rule caught my eye. Minimum 51% of eligible voting members. The minutes from their last annual meeting listed 18 homes represented out of 43, not a quorum. Every motion they'd passed for 2 years, including my fines, was voidable. Knowledge nugget number 2. Under most state nonprofit statutes, actions taken without a quorum are legally unenforceable, even if later ratified. We drafted a letter demanding rescission of all citations pending proof of lawful quorum. It was simple, typed in 12-point courier, signed by me alone. We didn't send it. Instead, we slid a copy under Janice's office door the night before the next board session. The following evening, Ray and I sat in my truck at the edge of the parking lot behind the HOA hall. Through the glass front, we could see her pack, papers fluttering. My phone buzzed with an unknown number, then hung up. A minute later, an email pinged from compliance@lakeside.hoa.org. Cease further harassment or face police involvement. I smiled. They were rattled. The next phase required patience, and I had learned patience the hard way. 2 years of settling my father's estate through probate had taught me to live on calendars and copies. A week later, a new citation arrived anyway. Unauthorized structure, dock extension. They attached a photo of the same dock that had existed since 1984. I called Derek. He chuckled, wheezy. "I pulled that permit last month myself. They're fishing." That night, I uploaded a quiet update to my channel. If your HOA starts piling false violations, log them by date, take photos, and get your county inspector on record. They hate sunlight. I asked viewers, policy versus property. How far should an HOA control your porch, lawn, or dock? Where's the line? Tell me in the comments, or at least like the video so more owners see it. Meanwhile, Carla discovered that Janice's husband owned a landscaping firm billing the HOA for $1,200 a week, nearly half the budget. Conflict of interest wrapped in turf sod. We didn't expose it yet. It would serve as a side fuse when the time came. In early September, a sudden storm rolled through, knocking power out for 3 hours. When it cleared, the HOA's prized fountain at the subdivision gate sat dry and sputtering. The irrigation pump had tripped offline, technically my valve. Janice left 2 messages accusing me of sabotage. I saved them. The third came from her lawyer threatening injunctive relief. Carla advised restraint. Don't touch the valve until the county verifies control rights. You're within the law, but optics matter. I waited. 3 days later, Derek sent a brief email. Inspection confirms valve jurisdiction per easement 2003-17B. Owner authorized for operation. The confirmation landed like the click of a safety off a holster. Still, I didn't move yet.
Tunnits will be in this in terms and well.
At them file. Let them shout. Every misstep would compound. Ray brought over coffee and looked at the growing binder stack. You sure you're not running for office? Just building a case, I said, brick by brick. He nodded toward the lake. When you finally flip that switch, make sure someone official's watching. I will, I said, watching sunset light stripe across the boxes still labeled from move-in. The fear that had followed me since my father's death, the fear of losing what I'd built, had quieted into something colder and cleaner. Determination. The HOA's annual financial review was scheduled for the first Monday in October, open to members and concerned residents. We'd be there, with the county inspector, 2 reporters, and a notarized folder that could drain their fountain for good. The hall smelled like burnt coffee and toner. Folding chairs filled with residents, 40, maybe 50 people, murmuring, clutching printouts. The HOA banner hung crooked above a projector that buzzed like a wasp. I stood at the back near the exit, binder tucked under my arm. Ray sat 2 rows up, cap low, pretending to nap. Derek leaned against the wall, county badge clipped to his pocket, sipping from that same dented thermos. Janice opened with her usual chirp. Good evening, everyone. Let's celebrate another successful year of preserving our beautiful community. She clicked to a slide showing manicured lawns, all courtesy of her husband's firm. Then came the agenda item marked non-compliant parcels. My address was highlighted in red. She straightened the mic. We've had continuing issues with a property outside our boundary that nonetheless affects our visual standard. We are proceeding with a lien filing for unpaid assessments. I raised my hand. Point of order. You don't have quorum. Her mouth twitched. We do tonight. I nodded to Carla, who stepped forward. Did with a clipboard. According to sign-in sheets, there are 20 homes represented out of 43. That's 46.5%. Not enough under your bylaws. The crowd buzzed. Derek flipped open his inspection log. And per County Code 14-1112, you're also operating maintenance vehicles across private land without permission. He handed Janice a printed report stamped with the county seal. The microphone picked up the paper slap. Loud. Final. Janice's composure cracked. You can't. This is a private meeting. Open to concerned residents, I said, quoting her own invitation. And I'm concerned, mainly about my water line. Murmurs rose. Someone near the front whispered, wait, her husband's company waters that median. The next moment felt cinematic. Derek motioned to me. I walked to the front, opened my binder, and laid the laminated easement on the table. This, I said, is the maintenance right you've been using. Filed in 2003, it grants operational control to the property owner, me. Every drop you've used to keep that entrance green has come through my pump. The room gasped. I pointed toward the fountain photo on her slide. You've drawn 12,800 gallons a month without consent. That's theft of service, by the way, under State Code 19405. Janice reached for the paper, but Derek's hand stopped hers. It's evidence now. Carla stepped up beside me, voice calm. Our demand is simple. Rescind all citations, cease trespass, and negotiate a lawful boundary agreement. Or failing that, we'll invoice for 4 years of unauthorized utility draw at standard municipal rates, plus penalties, $9,860 total. A hush swept the hall, broken only by the projector fan spinning down. For a moment, Janice tried a smart counter. Even if the easement says that, community covenants supersede individual control. We have collective interest. Not without jurisdiction, Carla replied, and not without quorum. You've been governing by habit, not by law. The HOA treasurer, a thin man in plaid, lowered his eyes. She's right. We never fix the filings. Knowledge nugget number 3. A homeowners association's authority flows from recorded covenants and lawful board actions. Once quorum or jurisdiction lapses, continued enforcement can constitute ultra vires acts. Actions beyond legal power. The chair creaked as Janice sat down. Derek signed his inspection sheet and looked to the crowd. County confirms the property in question is outside HOA limits. Any patrols crossing that gate after today could be cited. A murmur turned into applause, small at first, then building. I caught Ray's smirk in the back row. Janice's face flushed crimson as she reached for the mic again, but Carla gently unplugged the cable. Afterward, out in the parking lot, people came up shaking my hand. One man said he'd been fined for painting his door blue. Another whispered that Janice threatened to tow his truck for parking overnight. It was like air finally escaping a sealed jar. Ray slapped my shoulder. "You did it clean, lawful and public. They can't spin that." "Not yet done," I said. "They'll try to retaliate before conceding. I want everything locked tight." We drove back down the hill. The night smelled of pine and victory, but I kept my window open, letting the cold in. It reminded me that every fight carries aftermath. Sure enough, by sunrise my inbox was full. HOA emails accusing me of defamation, warning of pending litigation. Carla called it noise. They can't sue for telling the truth with documents to back it. Still, I braced for the next wave. They'd lost the meeting, but pride makes people creative. What I didn't expect was how quickly they'd turn that creativity into open retaliation. 2 mornings later, I woke to a thud against the porch. A citation envelope, again. This time, the header screamed in bold, "Community Safety Notice, Nuisance Property." Inside, they claimed my combustible materials, a stack of firewood, violated Subdivision Fire Code 7.3. I checked. There was no such code in any county book. They were inventing laws. By noon, another letter hit. Registered mail, signature required, alleging defamatory conduct and interference with association duties. Carla laughed when she read it, red pen circling phrases like bad faith and malicious slander. "They're bluffing, Greg. If they actually file, discovery will eat them alive." But the harassment didn't stop. I started logging everything. Ray installed another camera aimed at the gate. We caught HOA trucks idling on the property line, lights flashing into my living room. One night, someone rattled my doorknob at 2:14 a.m. I called the sheriff again. Same deputy, same shrug, civil matter. That was the moment fear cracked through my calm. Not for me, for my nephew, who stayed some weekends to fish. I moved his tackle box to the attic, just in case. My father's voice echoed, "Stand firm, but keep your people safe." Carla suggested we press forward. "They're trying to bait you into overreacting. Document, don't escalate." So I doubled down on documentation. Every sound, every flash, every letter scanned and time-stamped. The blue binder grew too thick. I started a second one, green, labeled Escalations. Late one evening, as rain ticked on the tin awning, Ray sat across from me, polishing his glasses. "You ever think about just selling, Greg?" I stared at the reflection of the porch light on my coffee. "And let them win?" My dad fought a permit board for a decade so I could build on solid ground. I'm not folding for a group that can't spell jurisdiction. He nodded, slow. "Then we see it through." That night I opened the file labeled Valve Control. The pump photo stared back. Brass wheel, rusted bolts, the artery of their irrigation. My hand hovered over my phone. The thought was simple, almost mechanical. Turn off the supply, document the effect, prove unauthorized usage. But I waited. Law first, optics later. Next morning, a petition wellness check showed up at my door. 2 uniformed officers claiming they'd received an anonymous concern that I might be unstable. They asked if I was armed, if I'd been threatening anyone. I laughed and handed them coffee. "Check my cameras. You'll see who made the call." They did. The patrol car parked across the line. The HOA number on the side, clearly visible. The officers apologized before leaving. That clip became Exhibit C. At that point, Carla initiated contact with a small investigative reporter, Lena Ruiz, who freelanced for a regional paper. Lena had a way of letting silence draw out confessions. She came by, recorded my story, one-party consent, legal in New York, and asked the golden question, "What's your endgame, Greg?" "Not revenge," I said. "I want them to operate by the same law they quote at everyone else." Her article dropped a week later. "When an HOA crosses the line, literally." The headline photo showed Janice gesturing angrily outside the meeting hall, county seal visible on Derek's clipboard beside her. It hit local social feeds by sunset. Debate sparked everywhere. One commenter wrote, $500 fines for mailbox color? Madness. Another, HOAs keep us safe. This guy's a troublemaker. It was the discourse I needed. I posted a video follow-up to my channel. How far should an HOA go in policing aesthetics? Where's the line between order and overreach? The comments exploded. Neighbors, ex-board members, even an HOA attorney from Texas chiming in. It wasn't just my fight anymore. Then came the lowest point. Friday evening, power flickered and went out. My generator tripped offline. Manual cutoff. When I checked the panel, I found the lock plate bent, screwdriver marks fresh. It wasn't weather. It was someone's hand. I stood there, flashlight beam shaking just slightly. The fear came back, a different kind, that this wasn't about bylaw anymore. It was personal. I called the sheriff again, this time demanding an incident report. Carla filed for a restraining order against unknown parties operating under Lakeside HOA authority. When power returned, I sat at my desk, staring at the lake, rain streaking down the window. The pump hummed faintly in the dark, a reminder that the first reversal was waiting. I wasn't going to pull the trigger out of anger, but out of sequence, when the law lined up perfectly. That alignment was closer than anyone realized. Sunday came with the kind of brittle sunlight that makes every reflection sharp. I'd been awake since 5, checking the valve chamber, confirming the camera feed, rehearsing each step. Carla had reviewed the plan twice. "This isn't sabotage, Greg. It's documentation of your lawful control," she reminded me. "Keep everything visible, time-stamped, and witnessed." By 7:30, Derek's county truck idled at the curb. "Morning," he said, signing the inspection log. "Ready when you are." I twisted the brass wheel a quarter turn. The pump hissed, then went silent. Within minutes, sprinklers at the HOA gate sputtered out like dying candles. I filmed the pressure gauge dropping from 65 psi to 0. No dramatics, no shouting, just procedure. "Visual beat number 1, I muttered. Derek smiled at the phrase. He'd watched enough of my videos to understand. By 10 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Janice's voice, tight, breathless. "You've cut community water supply. That's vandalism." "It's my supply line," I answered calmly. "Documented under easement 2003-17B, verified by the county. You're trespassing on my utilities." She sputtered, threatened legal action, hung up. I logged the call time, 10:04 a.m. That afternoon, a board email arrived. "Emergency meeting tonight, mandatory for all members." Carla grinned. "Perfect stage. They'll summon the audience for you." At 6, the room was packed again, hotter this time. No air conditioning, just the whine of ceiling fans. Janice opened with fury disguised as professionalism. "Our community is under attack from an individual seeking to dismantle shared resources. We will not tolerate it." I waited until she said shared resources. Then I walked to the microphone. "Funny phrase, considering you've shared my water for 4 years without asking." I held up a flash drive. "Here's video of the pump valve under my deed, recorded today, with a county inspector present." Gasps, murmurs. Derek stepped forward, nodded to the crowd. "Inspection confirms owner control. HOA exceeded boundaries." He placed the signed log on the table. The thump echoed across the hall. Janice's composure cracked again. "This is an ambush." "No," I said. "It's accountability." I connected my laptop to the projector. Slide 1, the easement clause. Slide 2, the HOA's unauthorized irrigation invoices. Slide 3, photos of the patrol vehicles trespassing. Each image clicked forward like a hammer on steel. Then the lights flickered, thunder outside rolling in from the lake. It felt cinematic, rain streaking the windows, the crowd leaning forward. Carla took the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, every fine, citation, and lien issued without quorum or jurisdiction is null. Any funds collected under false authority must be refunded within 30 days. Someone clapped, then another. The room shifted from tension to disbelief to applause. Even the treasurer joined in. Janice tried one last counter. "You can't just dissolve governance. People need order." "Order isn't ownership," I said, "and rules aren't laws unless they're lawfully made." The county deputy, neutral authority this time, stepped from the doorway, raincoat dripping. "Meeting's over. We've got verification of trespass complaints and a copy of the inspection. This association's leadership is under review. Visual beat number 2 lock." It itself in my memory. The deputy's badge reflecting light from the projector as he folded the report and walked out. After the crowd dispersed, Ray exhaled beside me. Never seen a house of cards fall that fast. Gravity always wins, I said, sliding the binder shut. We stood under the awning, watching rain bead on the closed hall doors. My phone buzzed. Lena, the reporter. Greg, I heard. Cameras caught everything. You good if I go live with it tomorrow? Use the documents, I told her. Truth's enough. That night I uploaded a quiet clip. For every homeowner who's been fined into silence, remember this: jurisdiction matters, evidence matters, and patience beats outrage. Then I asked, if your HOA crossed the line, how would you fight back? Buy leverage or go straight to court? Drop your thoughts below. By morning, the video hit 82,000 views. Comments poured in, some angry, most grateful. But I knew this was only the first collapse. The real reform, the second reversal, was still to come, and it would demand something harder than proof: mercy mixed with structure. By Tuesday morning, the HOA's collapse had gone viral beyond my channel. Lena's live stream from the meeting hall pulled 120,000 views in 24 hours, and the county clerk's office was fielding calls from homeowners in 3 neighboring towns asking how to audit their own HOAs. But locally, the aftermath smelled of smoke and toner. 2 board members resigned via email that read like obituaries for authority. Personal reasons. Time commitments. Janice, however, doubled down. She called for an extraordinary session to restore order, promising a lawsuit if I didn't restore irrigation immediately. Carla drafted our response. 1 paragraph, 12 words. System remains shut off pending formal boundary resolution as per easement. That same day, Derek texted me. Regulators reviewing HOA filings. Keep pump closed 48 HRs. 48 hours. That was our countdown. Ray helped me set up additional trail cameras. Angles covering the gate, the fountain, and my driveway. The footage, he said, would outlive opinion. Facts have long legs, he muttered, sipping his black coffee. By nightfall, HOA volunteers were out with flashlights trying to water the median manually. I could see their silhouettes flailing in the rain. It was pathetic, almost biblical, power taken away by its own arrogance. Then the dominoes started. Lena's second article ran under the headline, County Opens Investigation into Lakeside HOA Financials. She'd found the landscaping invoices routed through Janice's husband's company. Conflict of interest on page 1. Knowledge nugget number 4. In most states, nonprofit board members must disclose financial interests exceeding 5% in any vendor contracts. Failure to do so can trigger both civil penalties and insurance exclusion. By Thursday, the HOA's insurer, Palmetto Mutual, sent a suspension notice citing pending compliance review. Without insurance, the HOA couldn't operate legally. That was checkmate. Ray showed up with pastries that morning, chuckling. They'll fold or beg. Either way, you win. But I didn't feel victorious, just tired. My nephew's school had sent permission slips for a lake cleanup event next month. I wanted him to fish there, not hear adults argue about bylaws. At noon, Janice appeared at my gate. No patrol car, no clipboard. Just her, drenched from drizzle, mascara bleeding like ink on wet paper. You've made your point, she said. They're blaming me for everything. What do you want? I kept my tone steady. Transparency, term limits, an independent ethics board, refunds for false fines, and an open access day at the lake for everyone, not just paying members. Her shoulders dropped. You're asking to dismantle the structure. I'm asking you to rebuild it right. She looked past me at the dock, where the lake lapped quiet against wood. I agree. Will you turn the water back on? After it's signed, I said, not before. That evening, Carla drafted the Lakeside Reform Charter. Term limits of 2 years per board member. Quarterly public financials. Independent ethics committee with resident oversight. 20% fee rollback for 1 fiscal year. Permanent open records clause. We called it the reversal deal. Janice signed under the watch of Derek and Lena the next morning. Her pen trembled, but it moved. The deputy notarized it, stamping the date. October 14th, 2024. The valve turned back on at 10:15 a.m. Water arced across the medians again, this time lawfully. A small crowd gathered. Someone clapped, hesitant at first, then louder. Debate question for that night's upload came naturally. If an HOA official crosses the line, trespass, harassment, fraud, what punishment fits? Removal, fine, or prosecution? Drop your thoughts. The next morning, the county announced that the HOA would be placed under temporary administrative supervision until the new bylaws were filed. It wasn't total annihilation, it was reform, exactly what I'd hoped for. But as I watched the sprinklers resume their rhythmic hiss, I realized reform always costs something: time, calm, and a piece of faith that people will do better when given the chance. The week after the charter signing felt strangely quiet. No envelopes on the porch, no headlights sweeping the windows at midnight. The lake settled back into rhythm, loons at dawn, boat engines far off like slow heartbeats. I thought maybe peace itself had a sound, paper no longer rustling where it shouldn't. 2 days later, a thin brown envelope arrived from the county office. Inside was a single-page consent decree. Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association agrees to corrective governance under county oversight, effective immediately. Beneath the signature line, Derek's name appeared, steady as a carpenter's line. Carla called. "It's official, Greg. They folded the lawsuit idea. Counties mandating reforms. You've done what?" Janice resigned quietly, citing stress. Her husband's company lost the contract but kept the trucks. Rumor said they moved operations 2 towns east. Derek received a commendation from the county board for exemplary neutral oversight. Carla went back to her municipal cases, though she still calls sometimes, checking if I've stayed out of trouble. As for me, I started a small foundation using the refunded fines, the Open Shore Trust. It funds legal workshops for homeowners navigating HOA disputes, free of charge. Some nights, after the lake goes still and the porch light hums, I reread the first citation, now framed above my desk. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Law can be a weapon or a foundation. It depends on who's holding the pen. If there's a lesson worth passing on, it's this. Justice isn't loud. It's a paper signed in daylight, a valve turned with witnesses, a neighborhood learning it can govern itself without fear. And as for me, well, there's another HOA 2 counties over calling residents non-compliant tenants. I might take a drive next weekend, just to listen.